down through Pittsburgh. They should have came through this area where there's still a lot of natural resources that still need to be mined. You've got anthracite coal in this area. We need to have freight. We need to have passenger rail coming through the gap. That should have been done years ago. So I plan on upholding that legacy. And then obviously, imagine the halo effect you would see. Imagine the multiplier effect you would see in the local economy. All types of businesses springing up. All types of opportunities for people to have their own business and create less and less opportunity for large corporations to create monopolies. And that's what the American system is based upon, a division of labor. Constantly creating more and more, higher and higher forms of energy production for more divisions of labor.
All right. The website is adamforcommissioner.com, adamforcommissioner.com. Please, during this weekend, $5, $10, $20 from everybody, and we can get this mailer out and maybe elect an elected official. Adam, we'll talk to you next week. See you soon. All right, our last segment here on May 1st, International Labor Day. And we do represent the labor movement here. Unfortunately, it is in eclipse. The leadership is largely defeatist or otherwise shows the corrosive effects of many decades of defeat. However, I would also point out, let's just mention one thing from the Washington Post in recent days. We had Harold Meyerson, who was their sort of the furthest left of any of their candidates, talks about meeting with a delegation of 8 leaders from the German IG Metall metalworkers union. And the problem with that is IG Metall, I know the opposition in the United Auto Workers, the groups around Victor Reuther, Walter Reuther's brother, they put the IG Metall on a pedestal as a great model. But I'm afraid there are problems which Harold Meyerson does not mention. Right? There are certain things where they've been able to hold on, but at a price. You have to remember the Hartz system, HARTZ. This is not birdseed or the Hartz Mountain Canaries. This is, and it's not the mountains. It's a guy called Hartz, who was the personnel director of Volkswagen, right, where there's now been a leadership struggle going on. But the Hartz 4 system, as we have it now, relegates really 10 million Germans to a kind of human scrap heap where they're kept, they get a token payment to keep them quiet, and then from time to time they have to take any job they are offered. The decline of the German economy has been tremendous, and it goes together with Merkel's strategy, which was pointed up in a recent article by Professor Davidow of Brussels, that one of the things happening in this Ukrainian crisis is that Merkel wants a pool or reserve of cheap labor, a kind of a sweatshop area very close by in Poland and in some other parts of Eastern Europe. And the flip side of that is that you've got these 10 million Germans in Germany who are kept, they're just sort of kept alive, maintained on the Hartz 4 system. So I'm afraid this also will not do. And Harold Meyerson is obviously against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. But again, there are 3 phases here, people. One is against fast track. Of course, against fast track. What are you going to do? Pass a secret law that nobody's been able to read? If Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are really what they say they are, they should go and photocopy some of the most explosive provisions of this free trade bill and publish those and get the thing blocked in that way, right? Make it too smelly for anybody to vote for, even a Republican. So no fast track, no bill. We don't need any more of these areas. We need to roll back the ones we have. And the way to do that is third, the 15% protective tariff. And I challenge Elizabeth Warren and I challenge Bernie Sanders. A modest tariff. In the old days, this would have been a revenue tariff, believe me. Protective means 30, 40, 50. We're not even asking for that. We're asking for what today would be a protective tariff, even though in the old days it would have been a purely revenue tariff. So Let's hear that from Harold Myers. And it looks like here in the Washington Post, we've got Dana Milbank of Skull and Bones debating Harold Meyerson about how to protect the working class. This is not such a great situation. So again, protectionism is a great thing. Lincoln was a protectionist. Henry Clay was a protectionist. Hamilton was as much as he could be, given the power relations of the time. And so on down the line. Now, the other thing about these candidates is how they all agree. Some of them are supposedly more radical, but some of them are not. Bernie Sanders, the first thing he talks about is campaign finance reform. I'm sorry, campaign finance reform is a petty bourgeois process reform. And if you want to reform the political system, you must have some goal in mind. Why not go directly to that goal and leave out this tremendously exhausting and complex and expensive intermediate stage, right? There are a lot of people who will say, I want to tax Wall Street and get some benefit, who would not be interested in campaign finance reform. Hillary, what's Hillary's trademark now? The only concrete measure that I've seen her propose is a constitutional amendment to ban or to limit campaign, or she says unaccountable funds in campaign finance. And then we had Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks coming on one of these programs, and he's very radical, he thinks, and he's much more radical than Hillary. He says Hillary has sold out to Wall Street. It's true. But Cenk, what are you offering? Oh, campaign finance reform. This is a petty bourgeois, mentally impaired, so-called pseudo-opposition. And that goes for Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and Cenk Uygur and Hillary Clinton, of course. They all essentially want slightly differentiated versions of the same thing. So that's not good. Let me just remind you now, we had been hoping for Reverend Edward Pinckney, political prisoner held in the Rick Snyder Gulag Archipelago out there in Michigan. Unfortunately, it looks like the warden, right, the captors of our friend Reverend Pinckney have not allowed him to get to the telephone. So let's do the basic appeal for him. He's got to do now the full appeal, because it looks like the attempt to try to get some justice based on the obvious, what can we say, perjury during the voir dire of the jury selection. This is not going to be entertained by Judge Sterling Schrock. So it's going to be a longer process. The first necessity, of course, the transcript of the original trial has got to be turned into a text, readable paper text. So please go to BH Banco. That is BH Banco, Benton Harbor, BANCO, Benton Harbor Black Autonomy Network of Community Organizations. And as you look at the page on the lower right-hand side of the page, you see donate quickly with PayPal, and that goes to the Central Coordinating Committee, including Larry Pinckney that you've heard, and including Diala Walls, who you've also heard on this program. So that's the Pinckney Defense Committee, and I urge you to do whatever you can in that regard. I realize we have a lot of causes, but the world is in bad shape, and I urge you to think, you can't take it with you, and it's good to use money to change the world, right? Do something, get some bang for the buck out of your money by affecting some actual political change. That is what we're trying to do, and obviously the bang for the buck here is much greater, because it's not going to be wasted on luxurious campaign headquarters or anything of the kind. Let me also repeat for Adam Rodriguez that you just heard. His site is the Adam for Commissioner, ADAMFOR Commissioner.com, all lowercase, all together, no dots, no spaces, no underscores, no nothing. And again, for the price of a trip to Starbucks coffee or not, we can actually get somebody as an actual contender and maybe get him elected. And that would be a great thing. That would be a watershed, just the kind of thing you want to have in an off year as you're